Alrighty then. I'm just gonna post a link just in case anybody wants to listen in. Okay. Stream has been posted. Posted. Okay. Let me just turn the music down a little bit and then I'll get started. That's better. It's just kind of sort of in the background. All right. So today, I decided I would throw together a little stream. I'm trying to finish up this 5 Ways series, and today we're going to be talking about willpower. So let me throw this up on the screen just so we kind of understand what I'm talking about here. Willpower on the screen here, it says willpower / motivation. It is the will that changes, that creates, and that reforms reality as we know it. It almost that kind of reminds me of Agent Smith in the Matrix. It's like it's purpose that binds us, that creates us. Yeah, so my analogy with willpower is basically once you have utilized your awareness to know the terrain, you have used intention to set a goal, you have used expectation to empower your intention, and you have used positivity to fuel the entire mental vehicle. It is then, when the moment is right, that you must exercise will. In that moment, all the previous work will flow into the floodgates, or out of the floodgates, and become a focused stream. It is the will that changes, that creates, and that reforms reality as we know it. You know, I spent a lot of time in the last one about intention talking about identity, and I think that's a much bigger impact than we realize. It's just difficult to talk about. It's difficult to explain and in ways that are applicable. Like it's relatively easy to understand, but it's difficult to then draw a line from that to, okay, how do you actually apply it to lucid dreaming? So, you know, the way I look at it is we'll talk about it in terms of motivation because it's a little bit more accessible that way. And for every one of these 5 ways, I create, you know, I basically describe it and then I say, okay, what does that look like in action? What does it look like when that's actually being used? So in this case, I would say that motivation is executing your intentions, and it's also a goal orientation. So if you were, you know, as I've said in previous videos, each one of the 5 ways can be used on its own as a lucid dreaming practice. And I think, you know, if you were to look into your own practice, you would probably find that your practice is probably dominant one area. So you're probably using intention more or positivity more. So each one you can use on its own to create lucids, but my goal is to, you know, give people a way to kind of look at all of them holistically and understand that they all play their own part. They all are interconnected. And in order to really get a, you know, the ideal lucid dreaming practice where, you know, you can lucid dream whenever you want to, you can have whatever kind of dreams you want, you can have dream control while you're lucid, you can explore and expand your abilities while you're lucid or while you're awake. All these different aspects of dreaming and lucid dreaming are, encapsulated in these 5 ways, and building them will help you um, get better, get good, man. So, you'll hear these words used a lot, in psychology, or if people are talking about lucid dreaming. If you listen to any content creators or teachers, they're going to be using these words. They're going to be using awareness, all of the subtypes of awareness. They're going to be using intention a lot. They're going to be using expectation and schema a lot, or some version of that. They're going to be using, confidence or positivity mindset a lot. So what I've created is just a structure to fit things in, to make it hopefully easier to, conceptualize it in your own mind. And then also that conceptual structure should, in theory, enable you to have a more structured practice. To be able to say, okay, I've got this, and this down, but I think I'm missing a little bit of this. So let's dive a little deeper into willpower. So willpower and motivation, Stephen LaBerge talks about will in his book, Exploring the World, Lucid Dreaming. And he has exercises in there where he says, in order to improve your will, the power of your will, do things that you normally wouldn't do. And basically, he says, do things to do them. It's making a decision to do something and following through on it. And in doing so, you will increase your willpower. This is also something I found is a practice in motivational circles, like motivational speakers will suggest this kind of stuff, as well as occultists, people that are into, magic stuff. For example, like Aleister Crowley, Thelema, like that's a practice that he recommended as, and I believe specifically there, if my memory serves, it's more about doing things that might be uncomfortable, or you might be afraid of, or something unusual for you. And the idea there for all of these, whoever is saying them, the idea is to do something that is, it's pushing through a barrier. So whether it's just doing something, whatever, just a random thing that you don't normally do, and just doing it, just the act of doing something you don't normally do is exercising your will to kind of break a pattern. And that's kind of the core of this. It's change. The core of this particular aspect is changing something. The will changes. It can create, it can destroy, but it changes something. And whether you want to call it free will or not, whatever your views are on free will, we do seem to have this ability to choose to change. We have the ability to choose to do something despite either, having done the same thing over and over and over again for a while, or having resistance to the thing that you're trying to do. And we're going to talk about both of those things. So those are the two kind of main aspects, is you're exercising your will to do something that you don't normally do, or you're exercising your will to break through your own resistance. So I don't want to get up in the morning. I'm going to get up in the morning. You're exercising your will, right? So you set the intention to do that, and then you need some willpower to follow through on it. And it really helps if you have some kind of motivating factor like a reward at the end of the road, um, or some kind of positive mindset that says, I know this is good. I know that I'm going to do this and this is going to be great. A positive kind of outcome mindset. So, again, all of the 5 ways are interconnected. They all work together. And if you've been listening to all of the videos, you'll start to notice that these aspects or these are aspects of our larger psychology. And it just so happens that they apply to lucid dreaming really well. Um, I think you could probably apply this to anything, but I didn't design them that way. I think I said in my original video, these are derived from lessons that I got from a dream guide, and I conceptualized them when I was an adult and kind of created this conceptual structure. Um, but it can be applied to pretty much anything. You're going to be waking up in the morning. If that's not working, well, what's missing? You could just willpower your way through everything. You could just, push through everything and grind everything out until something works. Um, or, and some people are like that. Usually there usually ends up being some kind of consequence at the end of that, whether it's stress, sickness, other priorities in their life falling by the side. If you're going to focus everything on your work, then you might not have time to, have fun or spend time with your family, whatever it may be. If you're working 90 hours a week, it's going to be tough making time for other things. So when I've seen people go pure willpower and lucid dreaming, um, I really haven't seen it that often, but it can work well. I mean, that's the thing about it is like it can actually be really effective if you're just like, especially if you're taking a methodical approach to it and you're testing and then recording your results and then testing based on those results. You can get a really long way doing that. So I know somebody that a number of people would know if I said their name in the lucid dreaming online community. They started um, they discovered lucid dreaming, and essentially they would spam, as they say in gaming, they would spam a particular technique or practice or exercise until they've just fully understood it. And they would do that dozens or hundreds of times until they absolutely knew to a T what worked for them. That takes a mountain of willpower, and almost nobody has that ability. Yeah, it also tends to take time and energy, not just motivation and willpower, but some people, it's like, they're going to figure something out and they're going to do it. And that's just who they are. And that kind of comes back around to the kind of identity thing where um, there's a book called Atomic Habits, and it's a really good read. And at the core of the idea there is this idea about identity, of who you are. And in order, basically, it says, paraphrasing, that if you want to accomplish your goals, you have to change the way you look at yourself. You have to change the way you look at who you are and go from somebody who can't. That's the wrong way to look at it. It's like, okay, so whatever your goal is, there's some kind of identity attached to it. And so you focus on that identity. So for lucid dreaming, it would be, I'm a lucid dreamer that gets lucid every night. I'm an omni. If you're a masochistic person and you want to go for that, I'm able to. I'm a lucid dreamer that can, you know, incubate whatever they want, make whatever dream happen that they want. That's a pretty general gist of it. I would definitely suggest looking into Atomic Habits, if not reading the book, because that's going to go into the more detailed psychology and science of motivation and willpower. And that's going to help you a lot to understand how to um, maintain your practice, um, be consistent, and whether you are failing or succeeding, if you're continuing to try, you're succeeding, in my opinion. If someone is you know remaining consistent, even if they're not getting the results they want, I think they're still succeeding. And that's because if you're continuing to try and you're continuing to put in effort, you're learning something and you're growing. The problem with lucid dreaming is it's so hard to know uh, what kind of growth is going on. If you're exercising, you're like, oh yeah, I can run a little further today, or my muscle is a little bigger today. With lucid dreaming, it's such a learning curve that you might be getting bits of awareness in your dreams without even knowing it, or you might be getting more consistent recall or more higher quality recall without even knowing it. And so it can take some time just to learn what success looks like in lucid dreaming. And I created a nice little slideshow I'm going to put on here. So I think I've given a couple nuggets to think about. Um, I want to. I've got these images that are kind of triggers for me, um, and I have thoughts associated with them. So I'm just going to go through these. And this one is a guy he's really concentrating, and a lot of people make the false assumption that if you just try hard enough, then you'll succeed. And that's partly true. The downside of that is a lack of adaptability. So if you're willing to try really, really hard, just make sure that you're also learning from your experience. Make sure that you are reflecting on the dreams that you're having, the lucids that you're having. Um, this is not a thing. We're dealing with the mind here, so it's maybe infinitely uh, complex. Um, and so, there's a measure of adaptability that is required. Um, and welcome Oreki-sama. It's nice to have somebody here on the live stream. Wasn't expecting anybody, but that's great. Love it. I need dream control. Yeah, don't we all? Uh, and then that's a big part of this, right? Willpower is a big part of dream control. I think expectation is usually talked a lot more about in dream control, and that'll be a video probably next week. In terms of willpower and kind of correlating that to dream control, I would say when I'm in a lucid dream, I often tend to sort of build energy while I'm lucid. If I want to do something, I'll kind of stand there and just kind of gather my energy. And I'm using the word energy because there isn't really another great word to describe it. But it feels like this intense electricity that's building, um, and it just builds and builds and builds, and then I feel ready. So I think that's a good analogy for motivation, because even in waking life, we tend to want to feel like doing things. And I heard somebody say something recently like, motivation is feeling like doing it, but when you don't feel like doing it, you need discipline. So, and personally, I think discipline is like digging deep to find that willpower that's deep inside all of us, that's there, that will just never end, will never stop, will never go out. Um, and we just have to really, and a lot of times when you have to dig that deep, it might break something. You might lose part of yourself. Um, there's certain patterns and aspects of our personality that depend upon what we're doing right now. And so if we change something, there's certain aspects that may suffer, or we might lose that because we've changed something. Um, yeah, I'm here, Areki-sama. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, I mean, so I would suggest going to the description and joining the Omni Lucid Discord. And there's a bunch of people that can help with any questions on dream control. Um, and yeah, and I'm there as well. I'm DJ Dreams. I am reading the chat. Yeah, in the Discord. So um, I think just to address that, dream control um, is a big subject, and it includes all 5 aspects, all the 5 ways. But I think dream control, in particular, uses more expectation and willpower. Um, your ability to exercise your intentions in your lucid dreams is, I think that's what willpower is. So when you're in a dream, if you have an intention from when you're awake, or if you have an intention while you're in the dream, then it's a matter of executing that intention. You may not have the experience to make that happen. It may take time to build a schema for dream control. But when you're exercising your willpower, that's a success. If you say, I want to fly, and you go try to do that and you get off the ground a little bit, that's a success. Okay, well, what if I'm trying to fly and I've done it 20 times and it's still not working? All right, well, that's when it's time to start breaking it down and saying, okay, what have I tried? What am I doing while I'm in the lucid dream? Are there aspects of my experience where can I access my waking memories? Hey, Crystal. Great. Great. Glad to see you here. Awesome. Um, I find, like, for dream control, accessing waking memories is really helpful. And that's how I initially learned. So, I mean, technically I'm a natural, and so people are like, I don't really want to take advice. Sometimes people are like, I don't want to take advice from a natural because they don't understand how it is to start with nothing, which is, that's fair. Um, it is different learning from, like, reading things and listening to people than it is learning, like, intuitively. So, um, but my intuition at that time was basically, all right, this isn't working for me. What have I done in the past that is like this? Because it's easier to bring something, an experience, into your lucid dreams from waking life than it is to create an experience out of nothing in the lucid dream. So if you have an experience in your waking life that corresponds to what you want to do in your lucid dream, I would start with that. And if you're having trouble just doing that, I would say that building that energy in a lucid dream can be extremely helpful. If and this depends on how long you're in a lucid dream. If you're having trouble getting long lucid dreams, that's another issue. But if you're able to, becoming present in your lucid dream and then having your intention, whatever you want to do, it's there, and focusing in on that and building this feeling of, I can do it. This is going to happen. It's just a matter of time. All I need to do is get stronger, and I get stronger by focusing my awareness, centering my awareness, grounding myself in the dream, and being present, fully present. So if you can do that, that should give you a kind of connection. I don't really like that word. It should give you a good foundation to be able to exercise dream control. And you know, when you think of motivation, like think about people that go to a motivational speaker, or think about something that's motivated you. But I have a um, I have a list of videos that I've found on YouTube that I find particularly motivating. There's like a whole genre on YouTube now of like workout motivation. Um, there's all kinds of things that can motivate us. And so, whatever you find that motivates you, do a little bit of self reflection when that happens. When you do get motivated, do a little self reflection on how how does it feel? What is the before and after? What's the process? And try to create that without the thing that is causing the motivation. A lot of these things that I go through, and in my opinion, I don't think I've ever really heard people talking about this, but I think becoming better at lucid dreaming is a lot about becoming more self-aware of your psychological processes, isolating them, and then exercising them at will. So that takes a lot of experimentation, takes a lot of playing around with it. Um, and a lot of repetition. Like you got to try, 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 and try again. Yeah, Areki-sama, I'm not going to answer that. Um, that question is like, I don't know how many times we hear that question. It's going to feel like how you think it's going to feel, basically. And maybe not. Maybe you don't actually have the sensitivity or the experience in lucid dreams to actually have the experience that you want to have. And that's what incubation's about. That's what setting intentions is about. That's what bringing memories in from waking life is about. That's what getting grounded is about. Um, Remember, all of this experience is based in awareness. You don't have to be some kind of meditation master. You don't have to be enlightened. But there does need to be some aspect of self-reflection because lucid dreaming is based on metacognition. That is being aware of being aware. Okay, the dream is awareness. You are doing these things and blah, blah, blah. Lucidity is being aware that you're dreaming. So like I'm sitting here at my desk and I'm aware of my body and my hands and the screen and everything. But then how do I become aware of those states of awareness? Okay. Now, with lucid dreaming, that's almost like a freebie. It's like, because usually that kind of metacognition only happens occasionally, usually through, moments. It usually happens in very little small moments. We have these little flashes of consciousness, you might call it. There's a theory that I really like that um, was put up was developed by a guy named Ospensky. LaBerge talks about him in his book. He's in a number of the old lucid dreaming books because he experienced lucid dreams and talked about it. And his idea was like we're unconscious most of the time with little bits of consciousness, and that's kind of how I'm a little bit leaning towards that because these moments, they're moments, like they're not constant. We usually have to work to be aware, and oftentimes most people, like a lot of people, are uncomfortable being aware, and they'd rather not. They'd rather just live life, rather just like have fun. And in the lucid dreaming context, they'd rather just follow a story, have a good time, feel good. Most people don't want to stay in that metacognitive state because it's uncomfortable a lot of times. But there is a source of power there. And you don't have to just stay there constantly. But it is, I think it's almost like a gas station. You got to go fill up every once in a while and kind of refill your stores there so that you can use it and stay familiar with it. Touch it every once in a while so that you know it's still there. And that's, I think, when you're first starting out in lucid dreaming, it's important to know how to do that so that you have access to that later on. In my opinion, and I think maybe others would disagree, but I think that the more familiar you are with that metacognition, that awareness of awareness, the more it opens up the possibilities in lucid dreaming. So that's a bit of a rabbit hole that I won't go down, but I think as people are developing their lucid dreaming skills, they're also developing their metacognitive skills within the context of dreaming, not in waking life. There might be some downstream effects from lucid dreaming and waking life. Some studies have shown that there is some mindfulness aspects resulting from lucid dreaming, but it's not anything like super significant. A lot of, like, if you're focused on the narrative elements of lucid dreaming, then you're going to get into the narratives and that's going to be what you enjoy. And you may not even need that much awareness to be lucid. After a while, you're like, it's in the same, like, you're experiencing basically the same thing in terms of tone and like foundationally, like the foundation of the dream is this, the schema is the same, right? So once you get used to it, it's much easier to go into it and be lucid. So without like continuing along that rabbit hole, I'm going to pivot a little bit here because I want to talk about another aspect of willpower in action. And, we had talked about executing intentions and, what do you do when you're in a dream? Now, the other aspect is a goal orientation. So for people that, like I was talking about, this person that, would set a goal for a particular ability or trying out a certain technique and making that technique work, and then they would do it dozens or hundreds of times. That is like the extreme of goal orientation, where you've set a goal and you're gonna die before you before you stop trying, you know. And I saw this really interesting survey recently, basically suggesting, and it wasn't the point of it, I just kind of derived it from the data, that it showed that those with more lucid frequency were also goal oriented. The downside was they were having shorter lucids. So it's like if you have a goal oriented mindset, you can, you can get there faster, but then it's over faster as well. So this is the trade-off, right? So you can use a goal orientation and have a lot of lucid dreams, but they might not be very long. And who knows what kind of quality they're going to be or what you're going to be able to do in them. That's one aspect, though. So this is the trade-off. And if there's a goal orientation, what's the other orientation? Well, I would say, the opposite or the alternative to setting a goal and executing on it is, okay, I just want to get lucid. I mean, that's a goal as well, but it's not very specific. It's like, I just want to get lucid and have fun. So you're probably going to get lucid less. But maybe when you do get lucid, it might be longer, more enjoyable. That's total speculation. The goal orientation causing shorter dreams makes sense to me because, if you have a goal and you're executing once you're done with it, what's the point in the dream continuing? So that kind of ties into a mindset as well of just releasing your expectations about the length of the dream, and also digging into that mindset of like, okay, I'm done. I did it, I'm done. It's over. That, you know, it's not necessarily true. However, it could also be a benefit because if you did finish a goal, you could, wake up intentionally and then go back into a dream just to have fun. People tend to have a hard time with that, but let's see here. My chat's getting cut off. Oh, I missed a whole bunch. Will it help if I say out loud I need this dream to be long? Potentially. It's worth a shot. I would experiment with pretty much anything just to see if it would work. Um, none of this stuff is an exact science. There's literally, hundreds of studies on lucid dreaming, and we still don't know why it happens, what causes it, what it is. There's a whole bunch of correlations that we make. Um, there's a lot of techniques that have been developed that have worked for people but haven't worked for other people. There doesn't seem to be any one technique that works for everybody. So, what does that mean? It means a lot of trial and error, a lot of sort of trusting the process. you um oh yeah, Crystal, I got lots of controversial opinions. I mean, a lot of my content on um the 5 ways is based on an intuitive approach to the subject. um I could pull in a lot of studies and evidence, but then there's a lot of conflicting evidence. So, um, there's evidence that wake back to bed is not beneficial, but most of the evidence, the preponderance of evidence, shows that it is beneficial. Um, so, I've kind of taken an approach where I try to be unbiased. I try to have a very self-critical view, but at the same time, this is a very intuitive approach. So, it's definitely not based on a very specific, like psychological parallel or correlate. I could find I for a little bit I did start studying into like the psychology of these things. In psychology, there's an idea that intention and awareness are the two foundational aspects of consciousness. And so, applying that to lucid dreaming, it's like, well, awareness and intention are the two most important things. It's almost like intention is awareness in action. But then how do you explain awareness? How do you show people intention? How do you explain intention? How do you show people what intention is? How do you say, okay, yeah, that thing that happens when this happens, that's intention. Like, okay, yeah, we have analogies that we can say, yeah, this is intention, you know, or you remember like you set your alarm clock, you had to wake up at a weird time, so you set your alarm clock and then you woke up like 5 minutes before your alarm. That's intention. Well, I mean, okay, but that doesn't really answer a lot, you know? Um, so dealing, I'm like, okay, I'm using these, well thought out psychological terms, um, and aspects of psychology. But all of this stuff is going to be my opinion, and I do feel like I have a unique perspective on lucid dreaming because my approach has been to focus on the awareness almost exclusively, and not in the 5 ways kind of awareness, but like I split lucid dreamers into 2 categories. They're either narrative focused or they're awareness focused. So a person who's awareness focused a lot of times is going to have a hard time with dream control, because um, they are not allowing the dream to do its thing. Like most of dream control is your dream doing the work. Maybe that's a controversial opinion. Most of it is not you. Um, I think I gave this example in a recent thing I did where I was basically saying if you create a solar system, you're not deciding every single color and right all these little tiny things. You are the director, say, of a movie, and there are hundreds of people executing that movie, that vision. Um, in terms of willpower, the execution is, that's like, what's the binding purpose that's bringing everybody together? It's not just money when you're making a movie. These people are in the industry for a particular reason. Maybe they took an odd job because, like, some of them, um, um, I'm forgetting the word right now, but like, the set dressers or the people moving around the equipment. Sometimes the people are just getting an odd job, or maybe it's John Hamm, and he was a set dresser to make money until he got acting gigs. But there's like this purpose that binds everyone together. I think of willpower as that. Let's see. Just reading chat here. I think Um, you know, I think it's like the 5 ways could definitely be part of a discussion, but I would need to kind of complete the video series first, release the shorts that I have planned. Um, people, what I've noticed when people kind of look at it is either they don't understand how they're put together, or they have a different definition of the individual terms. So again, this is my personal conceptual framework, and I use standard definitions for the words. People love to have their own definitions for things, and it irritates me to no end, and that's fine. I try to use the words as they're defined, but how to apply them is the big question, and how they work together. I think if you start listening to content creators or people that have been in lucid dreaming for a while, you'll start seeing these concepts coming up a lot. And whether people realize it or not, they're tying them together. And yeah, maybe it's a little presumptuous of me. I'm like, oh yeah, everybody, this is the way it is. People just haven't realized it yet. I think I do think that about this, but again, it's my personal conception. Um, yeah, I mean, like I created the narrative versus awareness thing because I started to notice that the people that were high frequency lucid dreamers tend to be in the same world. May not be a persistent realm, but it's basically okay. They're pretty much doing the same thing every night. Um, they're either going to the same world, or they're interacting with the same characters, or they're doing the same actions. Um, if you think about it in a more abstract way, what actions are they taking? What type of actions? What type of mindset are they in? What is the environment that they're in? You start looking at it in that way, you start to see that those people typically are experiencing similar things on a nightly basis. Then there's another type of lucid dreamer, in my experience, that instead of that consistency, they might be high frequency, but they're just doing whatever. And a lot of times they're more focused on, it's like more of a curiosity approach, more of a, oh, this thing happened, let's experiment with that. So I call it an awareness approach because it seems to be more focused on the kind of, what is the dream made of, focusing more on like what's the dream made of versus focusing on the dream. I'd say the narrative folks are focused on the dream and experiencing the dream, whereas the people focusing on what is the dream, that would be the awareness folks. So like, they're getting under the hood. They're, it's the mechanic versus the race car driver. Um, and I guess a lot of people say, oh, the race car drivers are more glamorous, it's more fun, it's more exciting. There's better stories. You can, the people with the PRs and the narrative, like they've got all these stories. They can tell people these amazing things that they've done. And the awareness person is just over there like, oh yeah, I turned my dream inside out and then experimented with the void for a while, um, or whatever it may be. And then people are like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. Narratives oftentimes, like, they're just easier to understand, pack a lot of information, more enjoyable. Um, I just happen to be a kind of person that is boring to me, and I need more chaos to keep me occupied. And so that's what I get. That's the way my mind works, and that's what I get in my dreams. So oftentimes in my lucid dreams, I will be testing control. I will be testing or interacting with dream characters as a way to. It's always about, how do I get better? How do I find out more? How do I learn more? I'm always on that quest. So um, it can be difficult though at the same time, because it's difficult to maintain the motivation for that approach. And the truth is, like, just who I am. So I'm not going to change my approach because that's who I am. But it does take a toll, um, because you know, like when you're using like high motivation, pushing, you're going to change something, and then it's going to undermine your foundation or your approach, and so you're going to have to reset, rebuild, and then try again. So oftentimes I've taken breaks because that approach is really overwhelming sometimes, because I'll experience a particular aspect of my psychology in the dream that really impacts me emotionally in waking life. Um, it's done a lot of good for me. I think Dr. Kristen Lamarca is into some really, really amazing stuff right now, using lucid dreaming for trauma, and I've used it myself just on my own. Um, and it really is, it can change you in a big way. Um, so yeah, the kind of two aspects of that I wanted to talk about is executing intentions and goal orientation. If you're not going to be goal oriented, you got to be oriented toward your practice, your exercises. That's where you should be focused. If you're not good at goal orientation, or you don't want to do goal orientation, focus on the exercises. Focus on, dream journaling really well. Focus on recalling your dreams really well. Focus on, visualizing before you go to sleep. You know, um, in my opinion, one of the best recall exercises is, just exercising your memory before you go to bed. Recalling your day, just a few quality moments in detail, um, and then even, visualizing them as a lucid dream. I think, it's basically a mild, where it's like, okay, you're basically attaching your intention to lucid dream to your day residue, in a way of speaking. So, um, all right, so that's pretty much willpower. So far, we have gone through awareness, intention, and now willpower. The next ones are going to be expectation and confidence. So expectation could also be seen as faith. Confidence can also be seen as positivity. And I will outline how all of that works. Then finally, I'm going to create a video on how to self-diagnose. How do you take the 5 ways and actually apply it to your life? Well, not your life, your lucid dreaming practice. And how do you look at your lucid dreaming practice to figure out what you might be missing, what your weaknesses and strengths are, um, and then, how to work on each individual aspect. So I know you all are impressed with the fact that a chimpanzee can actually talk and enunciate like I do. It's kind of amazing, and so well dressed as well. Just incredible. All right, I'll talk to you all next time.